Hey guys, this is Chris Hunter from Collective Thought Media, and I have been having a ton of requests to create an updated Fast Dream Booth training tutorial. So today we're going to just take a quick rundown of how I set up my Dream Booth settings when I want to train a custom model on someone's face. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit run on our first tab right here. That is going to permit the notebook to access your Google Drive files. We will go ahead and allow that. When you're using a Google Colab notebook like this, you always want to go in a sequential order and make sure that you start each tab in sequence. So we're going to wait for our Google Drive to mount, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start the dependencies. Most of these tabs, you literally just hit play. There's only a couple of tabs where you actually need to do anything. People get overwhelmed by this. They think it's like too hard. They see all these different fields. They get overwhelmed. There's actually very little that you need to do in order to create a custom tuned model here. And the good news is that the documentation here is really good, actually. Okay, so they do a great job of telling you what these things do. Okay, so this is the model download. This is where we will download the base version of Stable Diffusion. We're going to use 1.5. If you want to use 2.1, you can. You just have to make sure that you choose 2.1 for all of the different options, and you want to make sure that your training images are 768 or 512. Now, I'm not hitting play on this down here, but I am going to enter the session name. It's going to be DV Glover. Okay, everything else stays the same. We're just working with the 1.5 version of Stable Diffusion. Now, as you can see, again, I'm not hitting play on these. I'm just going down and looking at them so that I can set up things the way I want them to be set up. So it is downloading the model right now. This is one of the more longer things that takes a little bit of time. So in the interim, so what we have to do is we have to rename our images based on the trigger prompt that we want to enter. Okay, so we're going to go to Adobe Bridge. We're going to batch rename these. It's going to be DV Glover is going to be the DV Glover, and then it's going to be 00. So, okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to rename all the files to be DV Glover underscore and then a number, okay? So there we can see they've all been renamed DV Glover underscore number. This first part of this file name, DV Glover, right, that's going to become the prompt. That is going to be the trigger prompt that will allow me to activate that styling. Okay, so now that we have renamed all of our images using the first word as the trigger prompt that we want to have, we've renamed all the images, right? So we've got that all set up. If you don't rename the images, then this won't work. So it's one of the most important parts here. So now that we've done that, there's two separate ways that you can upload your images to this Colab notebook here. The first way I'm going to show you is by clicking on Files here, and then G Drive, then My Drive. Then you can navigate to any of your folders. So for me, I made a folder in AI called DV Glover, and I uploaded my 16 images here. You can see here's all 16 of the images with the correct file names. So I can simply go and find that folder, click the hamburger menu, do copy path, and then right here where it says images folder optional, I can hit control paste, control V, and that will now, when I run this tab here for instance images, you can see it's uploading the 16 images. Okay, so that's the first way that we can upload the images, is by selecting a folder that already exists within Google Drive. The second way, okay, is if you leave this empty, delete that, hit run here, you will be prompted to choose the files with an upload here. So we simply click on that, we go to our training folder here that has all of our training images, and you open them, and now each of the images will upload one by one. I find this to be a little bit slower And that's why I prefer to just already have the images uploaded here, ready to go, and they instantly are added to your notebook because they're on the same server already uploaded. All right, while this is uploading, we'll just go over some of these other fields here. Captions is if you wanted to manually edit the captions or the trigger word for your images. We're not going to do that, so we skip captions. Concept images is where you can upload images that are related to your subject. And this helps the model to stay flexible and not become overfit and end up creating an inflexible model that isn't able to generate images of your subject in multiple different environments. So this kind of, it's like regularization, right? So basically what it does is it helps the model to understand how to render images of your subject in different environments, lighting conditions, etc., etc. We don't really have to do that. So you can do that if you want. You can find some images that are, and basically it says right here. So let's see. Run this optional cell to upload concept pictures. If training on a specific face, skip this cell. So this is going to be more for training on a style, I would say. So we're just going to skip that. Okay, so now that we've got 16 images uploaded. I like to do a minimum of 50 steps per image. So 16 times 50 would be 800. I think I'm probably going to go for like 1,200 steps on this. Let's see, 1,200 divided by 16. That equals 75 steps. That sounds good to me. Okay, so we're going to enter into here. We're going to enter 1,200. This is the learning rate, okay? And so this is how fast it learns. You want to keep it slow is the idea. Text encoder training steps, leave that right at 350. All right, and then that's it, man. That's it. That's all we got to do. You got to just update the number of training steps based on how many images you have. So if we have 75 steps per image, say you have 20 images, it's going to be 1,500 steps. Say you have, 5 images times 75 steps, you could go as low as 375 steps right here. But we're going to go with 1,200, okay? And everything is done here. We're going to go ahead, and that's it. We're going to start the training. You can see down here, you'll get a status update that will tell us as it's training. It will give us basically an update on what's happening, and it will give us an ETA on when it's finished. Oh, and one other thing is, of course, you want to just make sure that the resolution here again matches the size of your images. If you're training at 512 with a 512 resolution model, make sure you just have 512 resolution picked here for the training resolution. Now, also, if you'd like to, you could set the number of training steps, say, to a significantly higher number, say 2,500, and then you could set a checkpoint to be saved every 500 steps, and then you get the option of having like 4 or 5 different checkpoints created with a varying amount of steps in each one, because sometimes you go too far, it takes too many steps, and it's just not as good an outcome. So it's nice to sometimes be able to save checkpoint every n steps. So like in this case, if I say I was doing 2,000 steps, I would save a checkpoint every 500 steps, and I would start from step, say, 1,000, okay? So I'm going to get a checkpoint at step 1,000, I'm going to get a checkpoint at step 1,500, and then I'm going to get the final one at 2,000 steps. And then you would have the option to use those 3 different models to try to see which one gives the best results. Now, as we can see here, we've got a percentage progress bar for the UNet training. That's the first 350 steps is training the text encoder. That's going to take 4 minutes. Okay, so we'll let this run. We'll come back in a few minutes, and then we'll see how long it's going to take to complete the actual training. Okay, so here we are, and we can see the UNet text encoding training is 85% done. It's on step 300 out of 350. We have just about 40 seconds to go. Once this UNet training is complete, it will then move on to the actual model training. Okay, so here we are. You can now see that the 1,200 steps is started. So we can see we're now starting on the full training. We've got 1,200 steps to go. It looks like it's going to take about 15 minutes to complete that. So we'll come back. Now, guys, just one important thing to keep in mind is that when this training is running, you need to keep this tab open. I like to keep it maximized and keep it the active tab. This is active computing, so you're not allowed to like close this tab and let it just run in the background and then come back and open the tab back up. If you close this tab, it closes the runtime. The training cancels. So don't let your computer go to sleep. Don't do a bunch of other stuff. I recommend that while this is training, you just keep this tab open and maximized. Okay, so we can see now that the model training is coming to an end. It's taken about 13 minutes. It's 95% done, and we have about 50 seconds left of this training. Once the training is complete, if everything worked right, you will receive a message that says checkpoint file has been created, or checkpoint is in folder. So as soon as we see that, we know that we're all set, and we can go ahead and download the checkpoint file. Okay, so the progress is completed. It has finished the training, and right now it's saving the checkpoint file. So you just give this an extra couple seconds here, and then pretty soon we will get a message that says checkpoint file has been created, or it says something like that. Checkpoint is in folder. Okay, so now we can see it is done. The checkpoint model is in your Google Drive in the sessions folder. Okay, so let's go ahead to Google Drive. Let's go to Fast Dream Booth folder, and then there's a Sessions folder, and then here are all the different models that I've tuned so far. So we're going to go to DV Glover. You can see it's got the instance images here. It puts the instance images in here, and it gives you the caption and the instance. All right, so let's just wait an extra second here. Maybe it just takes a couple seconds to copy the file. I'm not sure. Usually it's here at this point, though. Let's try doing this. Let's try testing out the model. If we test the model, then it should show up. Okay, here it is. So there it is. Okay, it just took an extra second for the checkpoint file to show up. It's a 2 gig file. It just takes a little bit of time. So we're going to go ahead now and download this. Okay, so we can see there's a couple minutes left here. Okay, so we're just going to wait for that file to download. And while we wait for that, we are going to go ahead over to our downloads folder. And here it is. We can see there's the DV Glover checkpoint. It's currently still downloading. About 30 seconds left to go. Okay, so when I make a model like this, the first thing I'll probably do is just go ahead and test it out using NMKD GUI. It's just a very simple GUI that allows you to run it very quickly without having to like start a command prompt and all that stuff. So, okay, here is the DV Glover checkpoint. I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to go ahead into the NMKD GUI folder. We're going to go into data, models. We'll go ahead, we'll paste DV Glover into there. So we're pasting the checkpoint file into the folder where we keep all of our different checkpoint models. Now when we go back to NMKD, we hit Control-M, bring up the checkpoint manager. We're going to go ahead and load DV Glover. And now what I like to do is, for my first prompt, I like to just keep it simple. So DV Glover, portrait, 85mm f1.8. What I don't want is it to be soft, blurry, out of focus, have text, type, logos, watermarks, poor quality, illustration, painting. I don't want brush strokes. I want a realistic photograph. Okay, so here we go. We're just going to create one image. We're going to set the number of steps to 15, CFG scale to 7. We're going to do 512 by 512. We're going to do Euler, and let's go ahead and generate this. Let's see what we get. So, of course, I put DV Glover here at the beginning of the prompt in order to trigger that training. So we can see the Stable Diffusion model is loading right now. Now, one thing I like to do, you guys, this is just a little tip. If you create a free account on Night Cafe, then you can get some cool options here for creating prompts, right? So it gives you a lot of presets, different stuff, artistic portrait. So let's go ahead and copy this artistic portrait prompt, okay? And so, okay, the model is now loaded. So, like I said, I like to start with just a very simple prompt in order to test these models. So I just put in the trigger word portrait 85mm f1.8. This is going to kind of show me what the model has done versus, you know, giving all these different artistic styles and things like that. This is just going to really kind of show me what I've trained, right? So just the basic results here. This is all I want to see. So cool. So this looks pretty good. You know, it's certainly Donald Glover, right? No question there. So that's cool. That looks good, right? Yeah, these look good. I like these. Okay, that looks nice. So I like the basic results. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in everything else here. Head and shoulders portrait, aka concept art, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's go ahead and render this now, see what we get. Cool. Very cool, right? Let's make another one of those. Okay, let's go ahead and make it a 768 height, so we can do a portrait height, or you know, portrait aspect ratio. Cool, that's very cool. Okay, so we're gonna go. I like these. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna enter 25 for the amount of images to generate. And once this one's done, we're gonna go and hit generate, and we're gonna let 25 of these render out. And so, you know, some of these will look closer, some will, you know, be a little off, right? They're not always going to look exactly perfect. So, as always, you still have to kind of curate your output and, you know, work with what looks the best. Pick the images that work the best. You'll probably do some in-painting. You might do image to image with the best result here. But you can see how we are getting very realistic, accurate, repeatable results that show our subject, and these images are being generated within this specific art style. So now, you know, another thing you can do is you can clear this. You could do presets. Let's hyperreal, mecha, abstract curves. That's kind of cool. Okay, so let's copy that prompt, right? And then we'll let this run, but we're going to enter abstract vector fractal wave function Zentangle 3D shading, right? We're going to enter that in, and that's going to give us a wildly different result, right? So we'll go ahead, we'll let these 25 images render, and then we'll go ahead and we'll create some more images with different results and different prompts. Okay, guys, so this is creating all these different versions here. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm actually going to cancel it. So one of the things that you might find happening is you might be getting results that you don't like. For example, here we're seeing images of a woman. This is probably because of those other descriptor words that we added. So what we're going to do is to our negative prompt, we're going to add woman. Okay, we this is all supposed to be a guy here, so we don't want any women. We also don't want nudity or breasts. So we're going to just write those into our negative prompts here, and then let's go ahead and work on this new vector fractal style. Let's see how these look here. But just a little tip is when you're working with these custom tuned models, if you're getting results that you don't like for instance random characters of women, just go ahead and add what you don't want to your negative prompt, and then it will go ahead and hopefully stop generating those types of results. But anyhow, we can see some of the images here that were created. These look really cool, very artistic. Definitely our subject, right? It's certainly Donald Glover. There's no question. We're going to go ahead. We're going to look at some of these images now. These are going to be kind of highly abstract, right? These may or may not really look like what we're going for here, but it's just an experimentation, right? We're just looking to experiment. So let's try this synthwave. That's really cool. All right, that's pretty neat. So one of the things I recommend when you're making images like this is, let the renderer run, let it create 20, 30, 40 plus images, because sometimes you may not be getting exactly what you want, and so you cancel it and change the prompt and rewrite it, but it turns out that you just need to actually let it run for enough images, and then you will find that it is creating very interesting results. So, and sometimes the when you're getting images like this that maybe aren't exactly what you want, that's when you can actually end up with something very cool and creative and unexpected, right? So, like right now, I could be like, oh, this isn't really giving me the pictures I want. I'm just going to cancel it and change my shading around, try something different. But I recommend that you let it run, let it do 25 images or so, or at least like 15 to 20 images before you cancel it, because you might end up making something really, really cool with a prompt that half the time is making something that you don't want, but the other time when it does make what you want, you might end up with something really, really unique, unexpected, cool, artistic illustration. But guys, this has been a basic update to understand how to create your own custom-tuned checkpoint models using Fast Dream Booth, and then downloading the checkpoint, loading it into NMKDGUI, and generating your own outputs based on this custom model. I think what I'm going to do though is I am going to try this Synthwave Neon Retro. Let's give that a shot here, just to see a little bit more different results as far as the style that we're going to get. So, or like here, next we'll do some of this Cubist stuff next. Okay, so. Oh, super cool. That's really cool, huh? Look at that. So yeah, you can get really interesting results by just modifying the prompt based on modifiers from Night Cafe. You can get some very cool stuff there. We'll let a couple of these generate. We'll just see a little bit more of what this is going to make. That's so cool, right? That looks super cool. Very neat. So I think, this model is a success. It definitely appears to be flexible. The results are able to be, even though it was trained on kind of standard portrait photos of this subject, we're able to generate different styles of images here in a variety of different looks and artistic styles. That's important. You don't want to have a model that's overtrained and only creates images that look exactly like what you input. You want it to be flexible enough to create different types of images like this here. So we're going to let this make a couple more, and then I'm going to do a Cubist style. So let's go ahead and let this run one more, and then we'll try some Cubist style Donald Glover portraits. Okay, so we're gonna cancel that, and we're gonna hit generate again. I am kind of curious to see what this color portrait looks like. What does this look like? What does this prompt look like? Close-up portrait, LinkedIn profile picture, professional portrait photography. That's cool. Maybe we'll try some of that too. But I'm very curious to see what this Cubist generates here. And okay, say like this, you're not getting the subject at all. Once you change the prompt like this, you can go ahead. You can put the name in parentheses, and that will add higher emphasis to. Oh, that's cool. That will add higher emphasis to that particular word, which will hopefully get us images that look more like our subject we trained on. And again, when you're doing a prompt like this, where you have a pretty wild, style of art that's being created, you're going to have to let this make, say, 20 to 30 images, because maybe 3/4 of them will look like just random blobs and shapes, but you might get, image number 28 that gets generated might be the most perfect Cubist portrait of the person you're trying to create. So let it generate the images is my overall advice. Let it work. Let it run through a large batch of, say, 20 to 30 images, and then go back and pick from those what works for you. But I am not going to do that right now. In fact, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to copy this color portrait style, and I'm going to paste that. I'm going to cancel this output, and we're going to go ahead and generate something in a photorealistic portrait style. So you can see it says close-up portrait, color portrait. Let's see how this looks. If it looks nice and photorealistic, or what we have here. Oh, also, guys, so yeah, one thing is, obviously I misspelled painting here, but yeah, you want to change your negative prompt if you want an illustration, right? If you're trying to create an illustration, you would remove illustration and brushstrokes, and you would add in like photograph, maybe, right? Because I don't want a photograph. I want something artistic. So yeah, this is not as fun to me, but still might be, you know, something good here eventually if you let this run enough. So this is it. This has basically been the updated tutorial on how to use Fast Dream Booth, how to tune the model, and then how to generate different styles of outputs with that model. If you have any questions, drop a comment below.